Hello there, Janet. Thank you
Hi,
so much
Georgie.
for joining us. Okay, everybody, this is Janet Bebb, a good friend of mine who has offered to do some webinars for us so that everybody can learn about social media and how we might be able to use it within our businesses. Janet has been supporting Surfer for years and is always my go-to person about social media. So welcome, Janet Bebb from Social Progress.
Thanks, Georgie. Hello, good to see everybody. And what we're going to do in this session is we're going to look through some social media strategy and planning. So that's the basics of the actual webinar. And what we're going to start with first of all is just put some groundwork in there to get to this strategy and planning. So we're going to now go to the presentation, so you won't see our ugly mugs again, sort of thing. So, but we'll get over to that, and then we can take you through that process. So, just bear with me 3 minutes.
So yes, you could set up the PowerPoint. There
we go. Okay, hopefully you can see that, and you can see the start of the presentation.
Yep.
So as it says, we're going to go through some social media strategy and planning, and this is what we're going to be covering is, well, let's see if we can do this. Oh, there we go. Okay, so what we'll be covering is why social media matters for your business, the importance of social media strategy, aims and objectives, which social media platforms to focus on and why, some business benefits, online customer service and crisis management, will come as part of it, and some do's and don'ts on social media for service-based businesses. And then within that, obviously, towards the end of it, hopefully what we're going to do is get you to think as we go through the presentation on various different elements of those, and kind of score yourself as to where you think you are at this moment in time, and hopefully build an action plan as we get to the end of the workshop, the webinar, so that you know what you need to do going away from this to put in place, so that you've got a clear understanding of how to make social media work for your business. Apologies for the siren in the background. Okay.
Such a little being on a main street.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, what we're going to start with is just a little bit of a description, if you like, of what social media actually is. And I'm sure you can read that. So social media is a marketing tool that allows you to get to know your customers and prospects in a way previously not possible. Information and knowledge must be paid for with outputs of respect, trustworthiness and honesty. Social media is not a fad, it's the beginning of marketing revolution, not the end. Which is a really interesting statement. I think it holds very true for me anyway. I think in this day and age, we expect people to be on social media, businesses particularly on social media. And if they're not, people kind of question in this day and age, well, why are you not on social media? I honestly thought when I started out doing social media training and management 6.5 years ago, I thought it'd be about 2 years and everybody would be up to speed with social media, but clearly that's not the case, because we've got new businesses that are starting up all the time, and also everybody takes their own time at getting into social media. And the other thing for me is, as you probably appreciate, social media, it changes almost daily. There's always something new coming up with social media, so you need to keep on top of things very quickly and make sure that you know what's the latest trend, which is the latest changes in which platforms and those kind of things. So there's quite a lot to take on board. The one thing that, and obviously I've underlined it there, that I feel is the most important part is it's about respect, trust and honesty, and people will, in this day and age, if you're not on social media, they'll question why. They'll question, is your business operating in a way, let's say. So and actually social media gives you the chance to be a respectable, trustworthy and honest business. For example, let's say you're not on social media, and loads of people might be talking about your business already, and if you're not there, you're not listening to that, and you're not able to find out what people are actually saying about you, because they will talk about you even if you're not on social media. And the other thing is, we had some people where they've said, well, we don't want all that negative abuse and comments. In all honesty, it could be that you know, it's perception. Your business could be the best business in the world, but if you're not actually on social media and telling people how good you are at what you do, then perception might be that you're not you know, you're not being sort of an honest business, let's say. So it's, you know, there's lots of benefits to being on social media, and it's just about showcasing the type of business that you are and what you have to offer. Okay, so this is very strange. My up and down keys don't work on this keyboard with this Zoom, so I'm having to use the mouse on it. It's really weird. So why does social media matter? And it's not actually going to go through this presentation. Oh, there we go. So as it says there, social media does open doors that were previously closed. What I mean by that is I have clients far and wide these days, so it helps me to be able to communicate with people. I couldn't have done it in this way if it hadn't been for social media. We have clients down the south of England. We have we've had inquiries from France. I've got connections in America, in Australia. It's just, you know, open those doors phenomenally. So you know, you can get to people where you couldn't before. It also helps you share your knowledge and expertise. So, you know, we all have things to share. We all have our knowledge, and it gives you the opportunity to give that information out there. The one thing that I would say, and we had a workshop yesterday, we got asked this about sharing knowledge and expertise. The way that I look on this is I'm giving small nuggets away so that people understand the value of what we have to offer. I don't give everything away through social media. Why would I? Because if I did that, then people wouldn't use my services. And it'll be the same for your business. You know, it's about giving a few hints and tips away, enough for them to realise that actually this person or this business knows exactly what they're talking about, and we need to work with this business because they are knowledgeable in that area of expertise. Raising brand awareness, absolutely. I think, you know, one thing you probably all be aware of is that when it comes to brands, we often look for something that we're familiar with. So the more that they see your brand, then the more somebody's going to want to work with you. For example, you'll see on every single slide that we're doing today, at the bottom, there's our contact details and our logo. So we're making sure that people are aware of our brand, so that when the time comes that somebody's wanting our services, we're the first person that people think of, and it helps in that way, you know. And we'll show you some other bits and pieces of how you can get your brand out there. And finally, what I would say is it helps to build trust and build relationships. What I mean by that is, again, you know, we want to make informed choices, and we'll come to it later on in the presentation. But when we buy something now, whether it's buying that online or actually meeting somebody in person, we want to look online to get a really good informed opinion of that person, of that business, before we actually decide to buy. And every transaction, really, if you think about it, is built around those relationships and building those relationships. So if we do all those at that point, those 4 bits, then what we will get, hopefully, and which is what we all want, I would imagine, is to generate some leads, get some new clients, increase revenue and sales, because actually that's what we're all here for, is to make sure that we're making social media make money for us, because if not, then why are we doing it? But I would say, you know, you have to treat social media as a lead generator, and again, we'll come to this later. It is about building the foundations, if you like, of people getting to know you, getting to trust you, getting to decide whether they like you and whether you've got the knowledge and expertise to actually help them as a client. Okay, so what we're going to start with now is just an overview of the different social media platforms, because it can be very confusing. You know, there's so much out there that it often feels a little bit overwhelming. What I don't want to do is overwhelm you. What I want to do is kind of simplify things, and hopefully strategy and planning is going to do that for you. But we're just going to take you through a few different bits and pieces about the different social media platforms. And I'll explain how each of those might be used, and then hopefully that'll give you some grounding for when you think about your strategy and planning, where you put your efforts, let's say. Okay, so as I said, it can feel very confusing. We've got lots of different icons on this slide, and some you will be familiar with and some you may not be. So I'm going to talk you through each one of these and just give you a little bit of a snapshot of what they might be used for, let's say. I'm sure probably all of you these days are familiar with Facebook. If not, you kind of question where have you been for the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years, because you know we all hear about it every day about Facebook. Very, very popular, clearly used by lots of different people, and very much the forefront of social media, and the daddy of it, if you like. It's the one that everybody is the go-to social media platform. We're going to look at it in more detail a little bit later on in the presentation, so I'm not going to focus too much on that at the moment. Twitter, again, you've probably heard of and are familiar with Twitter, and some of you may be on Twitter, some of you may not. I'm not really sure, but we'll look at that in a bit more detail a little bit later on in the presentation. YouTube, again, I would imagine most people, including myself, if there's something I want to fix or something I want to find out how to do something, YouTube is usually the place that I go to. And often people don't even realise that actually YouTube is the second biggest search engine. So if you want to get something out there, YouTube's a really good way of doing it. So it means that you are going to get searched and going to get found. It's interesting, I met a lady yesterday who did cannabis oil, and she finds that YouTube really, really works for her because it's quite an unusual subject matter, let's say, and some of the other social media doesn't work quite as well for her, but YouTube is really, she's seen a lot of results through YouTube for that, and I would imagine it's because it's quite a specialised product. Okay, Instagram. Instagram, if you're not familiar with it, it's very, very visual. It's growing very big at the moment. Lots of people getting onto Instagram. And again, I think it depends on who your target audience is, whether it's going to work for you or not. Again, I'll go into that a little bit more detail a little bit later on. But just so you're familiar with the icon, it's picture-based. So some businesses struggle with it because if they haven't got pictures to showcase their business, then it's like, well, what content have I got? I haven't got any content, so you have to be mindful of that. This icon here is Periscope. So you might not be familiar with Periscope, or you might be. Periscope is actually owned by Twitter. And it's live streaming. So it's live streaming that it can be there for 24 hours, and then after 24 hours, it's gone. And you would go quite in the question, well, why would I do Periscope when I can actually do that in Facebook? And actually, the only reason that you can do that in Facebook is because Facebook looked at Periscope and thought, actually, this is a really good idea. Let's just do Facebook Live. So, and you'll see a theme happening here. So there are a lot of the platforms that do other things, Facebook take on board. WhatsApp, I'm sure a number of you are familiar with WhatsApp. We use it quite a bit with our own business. So we have a WhatsApp group for our staff, and we have other WhatsApp groups that we use with different networks, if you like, and find it works really well just to communicate something fairly simple. Again, heard recently there's now WhatsApp for Business, where you can actually put a message out and send it out on. There is some businesses that send out like a daily or a weekly update, and they send it out through WhatsApp. And and I've come across one where they send it out to individuals, so you're not in a group as such, so you can't be spammed by other people in that group. It's an individual link that's sent out. TripAdvisor, you might not think of TripAdvisor as a social media platform, but it absolutely is. The reason that it is it's anywhere that two people can have a conversation is a social media site, and so TripAdvisor is absolutely that. Okay. This one you may be familiar with, Snapchat. It's not my favourite platform. I've got one of the members of staff here that sends me what Snapchats on a regular basis, and the reason she does that is probably because she knows I don't really like Snapchat. Again, if your demographic is a young demographic, then absolutely fine. You'll get some engagement on that. It's very, very, you know, it depends on your business. We were asked recently to do some Snapchat geofilters for an Indian chain of restaurants. So what that means is the geofilters, if people are in the location of those restaurants and they do a Snapchat, a filter will come up that's got their branding around it. So if you're wanting to do something that's locational based, then Snapchat could work for you. But again, as you're probably aware, it's a younger demographic, so it's not particularly used by sort of people over the age of maybe 20, 25, 30, that kind of thing. So, so it all depends on what you're trying to get out and who you're trying to reach. Google Plus, this is an interesting one. A lot of people, when I mention Google Plus, I've never heard of Google Plus and don't use Google Plus. But actually, and it's a really weird one because it's a social media site that's not really very social, but it's absolutely crucial for you to use in terms of search engine optimization. So I'll just explain what I mean by that. So let's say that I use Google Plus and I put content in there. So it is very, very similar to Facebook. So you can like something, you can share something, you can comment on posts. So it's very, very similar to Facebook. And all I do really is any content that I'm posting onto Facebook, I also share within Google Plus. The reason I do that, and as I say, nobody likes, nobody shares, nobody comments, so you kind of go, well, why are you using it? But if you think about it, you know, if somebody does a search, we don't do an internet search, we do a Google search. And if I'm using one of Google's products, then Google's going to rank me higher than my competitors if my competitors are not using Google Plus. So it's more used from a search engine optimization point of view rather than a social media point of view. Okay, next one we've got here is LinkedIn. Again, I would imagine a number of you are on LinkedIn. Very, very professional social media network, all about your, your skills, your knowledge, your experience. Oh, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. And again, we'll come to this in a little bit more detail later on, but basically it's making sure that you've got the right words in your LinkedIn profile so that people can find you based on the content in that social media platform. Foursquare, you may never have heard of. So Foursquare is an American-based social media platform. It's based around people checking in. So let's say I go to a local museum or cafe or whatever it might be, and I check in there, and I check in before any of my Foursquare friends, then I get points and I get sort of trophies, if you like. But you kind of go, well, why would you use that to check in when you can check in on Facebook? And the whole point of Facebook allowing you to check in is because they looked at Foursquare and thought, we'll do that, because what they're trying to do is stop you going to other social media sites and have everything within Facebook. Facebook really want to be your go-to place. They don't want you using other social media sites. They want everything to be within Facebook itself. And then the last two that we've got down here, we've got Pinterest, which is based around pin boards. So if you've got a creative business or something that's visual, a food related business. We get construction businesses on there, architects, interior designers, those types of businesses. They're all using Pinterest because they can showcase the products that they do, or services they offer. And then finally, what we've got down here, if this is this might not be familiar to some of you, it's a WordPress logo, and often people's websites are built on WordPress. And if you have a blog in your WordPress website, that actually is a social media site, because it's where two people can talk online. So although you wouldn't necessarily think of it as a social media site, it absolutely is. So just so you're familiar of what social media sites are. And so if you've got your comments turned on your blogs, then you're allowing people to use your website as a social site, let's say. Okay. So this kind of is a bit of a snapshot of all the different main social media platforms, and a really good indication of where you might focus your energies, let's say. What I wouldn't want to see is people, I mean, obviously we're on all of these social media platforms, but I wouldn't expect you to set up on every single one of these. It's about deciding which 2 or 3, possibly 4, that you focus your energies on. And so depending on your business would depend on which platforms you need to put your energy. And as you can see there, they have, you know, what they're best used for example, Facebook being best for building brand loyalty, but it has a limited reach. And what I mean by limited reach there is, with Facebook, and you've seen it probably quite recently, that Facebook have now decided to change their algorithm. And really, if you're not getting engagement, you're not going to get a lot of reach within Facebook itself unless you pay for some advertising. Now the advertising is not expensive to do, and we will be doing another webinar on Facebook advertising, so have a look out for that. But that's the way that you're going to get your reach, let's say, and it doesn't have to cost a great deal of money to do that. The next one on Twitter is a little bit dated now. We've got 280 characters, not 140. I don't know about you guys, but if I hear something in the news, Twitter is definitely my go-to place, and I go to have a look and see what people are talking about on that. An example of that is there's the marathon in Boston, where sadly there was somebody let a bomb off at the end of the actual at the finish line, and then a couple of weeks later they were looking for the perpetrators of that. And I was on Twitter and seeing tweets from a lady called Amy Cuddy, who was tweeting about the people that had done the bombing, and I sort of tweeted to her and said, are you relaying what you're seeing on Twitter, or are you actually there? And she said, no, I'm actually there, which is phenomenal to think that halfway around the world you can hear what's happening live as it's happening from people that are actually at those events. So it's probably one of my favorite platforms, I think, is Twitter still. Although Facebook and Twitter I use quite extensively. So as you can see there, lots of different ways that we can use different social media platforms, and it is about identifying the ones that are going to be the right ones for you to choose for your business. It's difficult to kind of define without sort of sitting down and looking at each person's individual business, but I guess in terms of the ones that are on this webinar right now, I would say that probably Twitter is going to help, particularly around events that are going on, and communicating live with other practitioners. Facebook, we've found works really well for Georgie. So lots of content that you can put in there. LinkedIn is also working really well for Georgie, and also the Google Plus, less so with Pinterest and Instagram, although we've just got Georgie onto Instagram. And we'll see how that goes. We're just trialing it, I would say, at this moment in time. I'm not 100% sure, and I wouldn't want to overload people. So if you were thinking of just getting into social media, it will probably be Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+. And when you become familiar and comfortable with it, YouTube channel, definitely so. But some people are comfortable in front of the camera, some people aren't. It just all depends on the individual, but it will help to get you out there. It just depends, as I say, how comfortable you are in front of a camera.
Can I just point out as well, Janet?
Yeah.
That.
Do you want me to go back to that? Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
For a start, we're obviously both of us too old for all these. Demographics are so much younger. But anyway, the other thing as well that I found is, for example, I don't use WhatsApp for business. I did start and regretted it straight away. Especially because I work with people worldwide, and that would mean that I would wake up in the morning and I would have a message from a client, for example, with a problem, and that's the last thing I want first thing in the morning. So the problem with, for example, and Instagram especially and WhatsApp is that it's harder to actually retain boundaries. So, for example, with I suppose with Instagram, you can still hide it from your main screen on your photo, but I try to remove all the alerts from my phone, and so I haven't got it on the main screen, so that I can't see how many messages or anything I have from Facebook, for example, or from Twitter. I have to go look. And we just have to be careful if we are wanting to make sure that we have boundaries and that we're not working every evening and waking up to messages, just having to be careful with how we are alerted as well, so that we can
it's a really good point, I think, because it is very difficult, I think, and this is again the reason why strategy and planning is so important, because without that strategy and planning, you end up kind of almost being drawn into social media. So I know I'm a social media trainer and social media manager. That's what we do day in, day out. But I'm also very conscious that you don't want social media to take over your life. And so you're absolutely right to point that out. It is about setting those boundaries. And, I know people who, they turn their Wi-Fi off between certain times so they can't get those notifications. I'm a bit the same as you. So I have not all the social media platforms, but for example, I don't have the Instagram notifications coming through because it would just drive me insane. And same with Twitter, I don't get those. I physically have to go into those platforms to see what's going on. And you made a very good point there about, finding the different platforms where you can really engage with people. This is not about just putting content out there and it just being there for people to see. It's about properly building relationships with people and building engagement. Be invited to Facebook in Dublin in February of last year. I'm one of 8 trainers across the UK that were invited across to meet with Facebook, and they showed us lots of different slides, different presentations, and one of the things that they said when we went over there, which we questioned, we wanted to know why Facebook wouldn't allow business pages to communicate in groups, and they said, we don't want people, business pages in groups because we feel that those business pages would then be able to spam people, which they didn't. They're very much aware of that, and they're very much, in terms of the way that they work with businesses, they don't want to allow. They want business to engage on Facebook clearly, but not to get where they're able to spam people, because that would just devalue Facebook really. So, but it's interesting that although they told us that Facebook didn't want pages sort of being in groups, about 2 months after that, they allowed Facebook pages to set up their own groups. And I know it's something that works really well for us. We have our own group that's obviously around social media and digital marketing, and Georgia has her own as well, so she has her own groups for practitioners. And what that means is that you are building a group, almost like an advocacy around your business. And so it allows people to work and to talk on an even playing field. So when your Facebook page, a lot of times when you're putting stuff on your Facebook page, it almost feels like you're putting information out there, and you're hoping that people will communicate with you, but you're not 100% sure that people will. Whereas in a group, it feels a little bit more where you're talking with people as opposed to talking at people. I think that that's kind of the easiest way to explain it. But it's good to see people, you know, having conversations around your, whatever your business is or your particular topic. It's a great way of building people, because also what you find with those groups as well is if it is something that becomes of value to those, they will invite other people into those groups, and depends on how you've set your group up and what your group is for. But they're a really good way of engaging with people and getting people buying into your business, your product, whatever it is, your service, that kind of thing. Okay.
Great, thank you.
So this is just a little bit of fun that we are very much known within our business for eating cake. We don't eat as much cake as people think that we eat. They do think we eat lots of cake. So, and we've seen other sort of posts like this where it's all around donuts or bacon, and we thought, well, we're going to do one on cake. So this is just a social media explainer about why you would use each of the main social media platforms. So Facebook being the sorts of things that you like, Twitter being what you're doing here and now. So it's very much here and now as Twitter, and all about the hashtags. And I'll come back to hashtags in a moment. LinkedIn is all about your skills of you know, how to do something. Instagram being about the photos, and again about the hashtags. Pinterest is all about the photos, recipes, crafting, that kind of thing. Google, yeah, you probably not find your average people on Google. What you'll find is people like me, social media experts, and also techie people. So it's all geeks really on there. And then you've got YouTube is obviously it's watch me do something. So that's kind of just our explainer of different social media platforms. When I show this slide to people, we often get people going, there's always one, and it's absolutely fine to ask this question, but we usually get somebody at this point going, I'm going to have to ask the question, I don't know what a hashtag is. What does it mean? Which is totally understandable. You know, it confuses some people, but it's very, very simple. All a hashtag is it's a search. It's a way of searching something. So if I can put it in very simple terms, let's say on a Saturday night we're watching TV and there's Strictly Come Dancing on TV, and on the bottom of the screen you probably see hashtag Strictly, and all that means is if you are on social media and you want to communicate with other people that are talking about Strictly, just put hashtag Strictly in your post and somebody will be able to search and find you based on that, and then you can have a communication around a common theme. So it's the same for last year Georgia had the SERPA conference, and the hashtag for that was SERPAconf. And what we were trying to do there, and did do actually, was build a community and build a conversation around the actual. And so hashtag can hashtag. You don't have to hashtag, have to be being used. Yeah.
Sorry.
So, are you okay?
You're just really breaking up there again.
Okay.
So it might be worth actually, as long as you can hear me now, do you want to just go back about the SERPA conference again, please?
Yeah. Okay. So hashtag. So what we did when it was SERPA conference last year. So what we tried to do is build communication and build online presence around the SERPA conference. So we used the hashtag SERPAconf. And what we did see is lots of people tweeting and putting posts up and using hashtag SERPAconf. In that meant that people that were at the conference could communicate with each other during and after the conference to share their experience of that actual event, which is exactly what we wanted to do. One thing that I would say is you have to be very careful about when you choose a hashtag. A hashtag isn't something you apply for, you just use it. But what you do need to be careful of, and I would always suggest you check, is see if it's being used for some other event. For example, last year, well, it's a couple of years ago now, we were asked to do an event at a local college, and they chose the hashtag KC Works. It was Kirklees College, KC Works. So it's hashtag KC Works. We had a visual display there showing every tweet that had KC Works hashtag in it. And what they didn't do is they hadn't checked to see if somebody was already using that hashtag or had used it in the past. And so what we got is kind of every other tweet that came up was 4x4 trucks in America. So you have to be very, very careful about what you choose. So always, if you are doing some sort of an event and you're using a hashtag, choose wisely, check it out, see if it's somebody else is using it. And then if they aren't, then great. You know, it means that you're building an audience, let's say, around your business and around your event. So for example, on the bottom of the slide, you'll see we have hashtag SoPro High Five. And often when we're out at events, we're at 2 events next week, we will use that hashtag in our tweets, in our Instagram posts, so that people can be building a network, if you like, around our business. So it means that nobody else is using SoPro High Five, and they better never do, but that's the one that we use. But you don't have to apply for one, it's just you decide to use one, but always check that whether it's not being used by somebody else first. Okay.
Can I just ask you quickly then, Janet, yeah. How do you check? I mean,
how do you check?
You can check in Twitter, but...
Yeah, it's the same principle on Instagram, or any of the LinkedIn doesn't really use hashtags at this moment in time. Pinterest does, Google Plus does, Facebook does to a degree, as does the main ones are Twitter and Instagram when it comes to hashtags. And basically all you would do is check within those social media platforms. So just do a search, a simple search. Yeah. So just do a simple search for hashtag. So for example, when we set yours up, Georgie, we just made sure that nobody else is using SERPAconf. Yeah. We're kind of fairly confident that they wouldn't be. And so, and also you want to make sure you're choosing one that makes sense to people. So if we'd have used SERPACon, wouldn't have been, it has a different connotation completely. So it's not a good one to use because con, you know, people don't really understand. It's like, what, you conning me, are you? So you have to kind of think about the words that you use, and we've seen some really bad ones, and it's got to make sense to people too. So you know,
we just felt SERPA conference was too long, didn't we?
Absolutely, yeah, because you're taking more characters out. It probably actually now wouldn't be a big deal to put SERPA conference, only because the character limit has extended on Twitter. So you've got 240 characters, so that wouldn't be a big challenge anymore. But yeah, it needs to be something that is that means something to people. So yeah.
And you basically just go into the search bar and you just put hashtag, for example, SERPAconf, and see what comes up. And if nothing comes up, you know it's available.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so 7 benefits to businesses using social media marketing for service businesses, which is what your businesses are. So just to talk you through these, so it gives you a platform to show you as a leader in your chosen specialism. So, you know, if you put yourself out there, and I know for some people that can be quite difficult, particularly I think, you know, older generation tend to struggle with this more than younger generation, me included. You know, I don't like to sound my own trumpet. I don't like to kind of go, you know, I'm the best at X, Y, Z. But if you kind of get yourself out there and explaining the sorts of things that you do, then people will naturally see you as an expert in that field. It's just about being, you know, authentic and honest, and talking about the things that you know that you are very comfortable about talking about, to be honest. So, and the more that you do that, the more people will see you as the expert in that field. I know it's worked for us. You know, in our local area, we've tried. I wouldn't say I tried hard, is the wrong word. We've actively put ourselves out there, and we know in our area, we are probably the go-to person when it comes to social media. We're probably the one business that people think of first. But we've worked to make that happen. We've made sure that our branding gets out there. We're active on social media. We do a little bit of networking, not masses amounts, because it's all about the time element, but we do kind of make sure that we are keeping consistent. So we're always on there on social media. That doesn't mean to say we're on there all day, every day. Obviously, I can't be on social media right now. I'm talking to you guys. I wasn't on it majority of day yesterday because I was delivering a full day workshop, but we do make sure we're consistently on social media, and even if we're not posting something every day, we are being, you know, conscious that we are posting on a regular basis. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, how often should I post? It's entirely up to you. There isn't a right or wrong way. The only thing that I would say is, don't go hell for leather and posting loads and loads of stuff and then not doing anything for 2 weeks, and then doing a load again and then not doing anything for 2 weeks. It gives the wrong impression. It's like, I'm busy, I'm not busy, I'm busy, I'm not busy. It's about keeping it on an even keel. And even if that's only that you're posting, it might be once a day, it might be once every other day. It's entirely up to you. It's whatever feels comfortable and what you've got the capacity to do, Lou, let's say.
And you can plan them in, can't you, with some of the...
Say again. You can?
You can plan them in. I'm trying to think of the word.
Yeah, like, you can schedule. So so that I mean, that's one thing that we do. We're very conscious of is we don't spend all time on social media all day, every day, and we're not constantly at it. We bank time and we put it in our diary and we go, right, that's our social media time. So, and again, it's whatever works for you. We have some businesses where, I mean, we're slightly different because we do social media on behalf of clients. But for you, it might be that you schedule half an hour a day to do social media, or it could be that you go, right, on Monday morning, I'm going to schedule everything that I need to go out from that Monday morning to the next Monday morning. But work smart, you know, make sure that you're doing it effectively rather than being on there all the time, because all that will happen is you'll end up spending loads of time on social media. Again, as it says there, it helps you to build a network, and it helps you to create, you know, a buzz around you as a business or as an individual. The picture on your right is actually my mum and dad, and there's a blog that I've written on my website that's called Off to See a Man About a Dog, and it is about my dad, and it's about how he used to network back in the 60s, and I'll just sort of explain how he used to network and how we network in this day and age, and the similarities between that. So my dad I'd often see, my dad lost his job as a joiner by trade, and he decided to set up doing sandblasting houses, but he didn't know where to find his customers, and he didn't know where to find his equipment. But he bought the equipment, and we'd often see him putting his coat on and his flat cap, and we go, "Where are you going, Dad?" And he'd say, "I'm off to see a man about a dog." And we never got a dog, sadly. But what he did do is he went to the pub, and he wasn't a drinker, and he would talk to people in the pub, and he would go down the shops and talk to people in the shops and just ask them, kind of, how's things going? Are you doing okay? And, you get somebody saying, "Oh, well, we could do with a bit more X, Y, Z." And we're like, "Oh, you need to speak to so-and-so. What I'll do next time I'm in, I'll ask them to get in touch with you." So we'd just put people in touch with each other. Because he knew that it would help this person over here and this person over here. So, and not in a case of, right, well, therefore you owe me. It was just like, it helps them, so that's good. But then guess what? When somebody came into the pub and said, "We need somebody to do sandblasting our house," they go, "Speak to Eddie. Eddie's your man." They remembered him because he'd done something for them, So, and actually, when I think about the way that we use social media in today's world, it's very, very similar. So I'm engaging with people that actually might not have anything to do with my business. But if I see something, let's say I've got somebody who says, I'm getting married next year. I'm looking for somebody to bake our cake. Straight away in my head, I'd have somebody, and I do straight away know somebody who I can introduce them to. So I do. And guess what? When they have somebody that says, "I'm rubbish with my social media, who do I need to speak to?" The guy that I'm thinking of, Oliver, will straight away go, "Speak to Janet. She's good at social media." So it's about that building network around you that might not necessarily fit within your business. But I think sometimes we become too blinkered in what we do. And if we open our minds up a little bit more and open our network up, it means that actually what we can do is get those referrals coming in from people that you just would not expect. And that's what we've seen is we get referrals from lots of different people, and it's only because in a lot of respect we're looking out for them as well. And sometimes we might not always find the referral for them, but we're still looking out for them all the time. So third one is it gives you the chance to have that personal engagement. So it gives you the chance to properly speak to people in the way, being authentic, being honest, being whoever you are. It's the same for us. What you see with me is what you get. And some people will like that and some people won't, and that's absolutely fine. But we do know that actually our personality, what we try and do is bring our personality across into our social media and onto our website. And we do that purposely. And the reason that we do that is because we know that some people will be fearful about getting involved in social media. And what they'll want to do is look on our website, on our social media, and go, actually, they look okay, they look pretty normal. We're not normal, clearly, but you know what I mean. So we're regular people. We're not some big high corporate entity that's going to charge you the earth. We're just regular people. And I think sometimes it's breaking down that barrier so people feel that they've got a connection with you before they've even met you. And we get that all the time. We get people who we actually have people who ring up and say, "I've rung you because I looked at your website and you look like, you're nice and friendly." We've purposely created that because we want people to feel that we are approachable, that we're not going to, rip them off and that kind of thing. We're open, we're honest. We absolutely uphold our values of being an authentic business, and there's no reason why you can't do the same. And social media gives you that opportunity to do that.
Great.
Okay, fourth one is customer service. Absolutely feel that, again, with social media, it gives you the opportunity to showcase how you work with customers. And if you can get people sharing their experience on your social media of how they've engaged with you, that's great. For example, encouraging people to leave you reviews is a fantastic way to do it. You're not always going to get those reviews, and we're the same, so we don't always get people leaving us reviews. It's always lovely when people do. But if you can encourage that to happen, that's great. I think that, if I'm honest, with customer service, it's probably the one area that people are most fearful with social media, because they think they're going to get a barrage of abuse and people putting nasty things up there. It's not the case, actually. You know, you see very few people posting negative comments. And if your business is a great business, which is why we show AO, because to me, they go over and above their customer service, then, you know, it gives you a great platform for other people to say how great you are. So, you know, get something up there. And obviously, in terms of social media, if you do get somebody putting something negative on your social media, the best way that I can describe to deal with that is make sure you do acknowledge it on social media. Don't just leave it. I've seen businesses before where they say, well, I've dealt with that, I've spoken to the person. Great, but you need to put that up on social media, because if you don't, everybody else will assume that you've just totally ignored that person. So the best way to do it is acknowledge it and say, thanks for your comments. And if you have dealt with it, say, we've already dealt with this with the person individually offline. Or if you haven't done that, just, you know, if it was me, I'd be kind of saying, great, thank you for your comments. We'd really love to deal with this. Please, can you send me your email address, telephone number? I'd like to give you a call and we can get this sorted out for you. So show that you're actually dealing with it online, but do not deal with it online. Do not get into a conversation online about something that's negative, because all you'll get is people rolling their sleeves up, sitting there thinking, I'm just going to sit back and listen to this, really. So, you know, take it offline as soon as possible. Again, if you're unsure about that aspect, we've got a blog on our website, and it's all about crisis management and customer service, and it gives you an algorithm on there, and it shows you what to do at every stage. So depending on whether it's just something short and sweet, just a comment, or if it's something fully blown out of all proportion, it'll give you some hints and tips on there of how to deal with that process. So have a look at that.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so this for me is one of the most important slides of the whole presentation. For me, if you can get people from becoming a stranger to visiting your social media or your website, great. If you then can convert those into a lead so that they have shown interest and they want to know how much is it going to cost me to actually work with you, that kind of thing. And then those people becoming a customer, fantastic, you've got them as a customer. But the bit that's the most important bit is when you've got your customers becoming your promoters. If you can achieve that, you've cracked it, you've hit your goal. Because if I can get people talking about my business in a positive way, and it's not me, that absolutely is the end goal. In terms of the promoter, so if I say, you know, if I would say, I'm glad you're on this webinar with me, because actually I'm brilliant at what I do. I'm the best social media trainer there is out there in this location. No, actually, I'm the best in the UK. I'm the best in the world. You kind of think, oh my God, she thinks she's so blooming wonderful. And it's not that. It's like, you know, if somebody else tells you, right, you know, says how great you are. For example, Georgia, if Georgia says, you know, Janet's really good at social media, and she's got no vested interest other than the fact that she's had an experience of our training before, so she's more likely, and you're more likely to listen to somebody like Georgia, because she hasn't got, it's not her business, it's completely independent, and it's, for me, what I would class as the Amazon effect. And so when we go to purchase something on somewhere like Amazon, the first thing that we do is we look at the comments underneath the actual item to see what other people have said about that particular product. We don't even know those people, but we listen to what they're saying because they are independent. Now, if you can get people saying great things about you as a business professional, then that's going to help you. And the way that you would do that, obviously, is making sure you're getting people leaving you reviews on Google or leaving reviews on your Facebook page, so that people know that it's authentic. It's not you kind of making it up, let's say. So, and the more you can get that, the better, and the more you can get people pointing people in the direction of your social media, fantastic. Often what people forget is they set the social media up thinking it's for them to kind of promote themselves, which it is, but it's also there to give an opportunity for other people to point the people that they know in your direction. If you're not there on social media, they can't do that, and they won't do that. They won't look you up. They won't kind of go, oh, let me find your email address. They'll just want to make it as easy as possible. So make it easy for them to do that. So if they say, can you recommend and whatever that might be, if they can do it through social media, they will. If they can't, they're not going to spend the time looking you up. So that's another reason why, you know, if you can get your people on that continuum to that promotion stage, you've cracked it, and really they become your marketing team as opposed to you trying to do it all yourself. Sixth on these sort of tips, if you like, of why you be on social media is just some ideas of working smarter, not harder. So we, for example, use these are all social media dashboards. The one that we use primarily is Hootsuite, and as George said earlier about scheduling posts to go out on the social media platforms, this is a way of doing it. So rather than getting caught up in the actual social media platforms themselves and getting off track, if you like, use a social media dashboard, and you can either post something there and then if you wanted to do that, or you can schedule it to go out at certain days, certain times of the week, or you can do what they call auto scheduling. And what auto scheduling will do is it will decide when to put those posts out. It will look to see when your audience is most active online, and it will post those posts out at that time. So all of these three do the same thing, whether it's TweetDeck, Hootsuite, Buffer, they're all very similar, and it's just about choice really, which one actually feels easier for you to use. As I said, the one that we primarily use is Hootsuite. We have the paid for version, but we also use Buffer a little bit as well, and again, that's just to get some short information out there. What I like about Buffer is, let's say I'm on the BBC website, I have a little widget in my browser at the top on the browser bar, which means I can click that button and a little pop-up will come up with the content of that page, whatever page I'm on, and I can either post it there and then to my social media, or I can schedule it. So it makes it really easy to take that content and put it up on your social media very quickly. That's what I like about Buffer really. So, and I don't use TweetDeck. I'm sure it's very similar. It's just not my preferred option. That's all. And the seventh, what I do feel that social media offers you is it gives you insightful data. You're never going to get social media completely 100% spot on. The reason being that things change, your audience changes, the social media platforms change. So it is a case of creating something, sharing it, reviewing it, redoing it, changing it, and keeping going through this process to find out what works well and what doesn't work well. The two things on the right hand side there, Social Mention is a tool, it's a free tool, we like free. It's a free tool that you can use to look at Twitter accounts. So you can look at your own Twitter account and see how well it's doing, what's been the best tweet that you've posted out in the last sort of month, let's say, and it'll give you a good idea of what kind of things are getting good engagement and what aren't. The other thing you can do with Social Mention is you can put your competitors in there as well, and you can see how well their posts are doing. It is just for Twitter, by the way, but it does mean you can find out, well, okay, let me have a look at some of my competitors and find out how well they're doing and what is working for them, and can I replicate it in some way for my own business. So it's a good tool to use.
So is that a website then, Janet? Social
Yes. Yeah, so you just go in and you put your Twitter handle in there, and then it will bring you the stats through as to how many retweets you've got, how many mentions you've got, and all that kind of thing. So it's really good. You can do it in Twitter as well, but it's just a way, for me, I think the beauty of it is, and the benefit is, you can do it with your competitors. So you can't do that within Twitter on your competitor analysis. So in terms of competitor analysis, it will help you to have a look to see how other people are doing, and maybe get some ideas for content for yourself, really.
Great.
And then the one at the bottom, Clout, is a social media platform, sorry, a social media tool, if you like, where you put all your social media links in. And what it does is it kind of analyzes how you're using your different social media platforms, and it will tell you what kind of a social media person you are. So, for example, are you a networker? Are you a broadcaster? Are you an industry expert? And so it's helping you to identify how you're coming across through social media. For example, let's say it came back and it said, you're a broadcaster. Nobody actually wants to be a broadcaster, because all that means is you're talking at people and you're not actually talking with people. You're sending posts out all the time and you're not actually engaging with people. So then it's kind of thinking, okay, well, what do I need to change that perspective? Because I don't want to be whatever that is. So if it's a broadcaster, so let's say, for example, you want to be an industry expert, it's helping you to think, what do I need to change to be seen online as expert? And it's cool. Use it extensively. We might only go on there maybe once every quarter or something, just to see how we're doing with that. But we feel that we're fairly confident with how we're using social media anyway. But if you're starting out with social media, again, it's a good tool to use, and again, it's free. So have a look at that one.